Hey guys, what's up? LJS here, back with another deck profile. Today I'll be doing a deck profile on Immortal Asura Kaiser. I still haven't gotten my Galaxy Blackougar deck yet, but I'm able to finish him because, as you guys know, I pulled a lot of him. If you've seen my EB8 unboxing videos, I actually got 6 of him and only 2 mods and 0 Galaxy. Galaxy Blackcougars are hard to find in Malaysia, so I'm still not finished with that deck. But in the meantime, let's talk about Immortal. And this deck is actually pretty good. If you guys have seen my boxing video, I said that he was pretty meh, but I take back my words. This deck is actually pretty good. So the idea of this deck, like most Nova Grappler decks, is focusing on rearguard plays. But this deck focuses on rearguard plays, restanding rearguards, and powering up insanely for that final turn push. Yes, trust me, this deck has insane amounts of power if you're able to pull off the final turn push. So the main boss of the deck, of course, is Immortal Asura Kaiser, which is a a Vanguard restander. He is supported by Blackougar, the Break Right, which restands all rearguards, and his own original Surf Asura Kaiser to help you get that cross right of 13k. Next, he's also supported by cards like Death Army Lady, which is a rearguard Surf restander, as well as the 2 MVPs of this deck, which would be your Samurais, your Daredevil Samurai and Beatdown Samurai, which can help you get insane amounts of power. So, with the general idea away, let's get to the deck profile. For the starter, I run Blaujungar. Yeah, Blaujungar. I don't know how you pronounce it, it's probably German. Okay, so his skill is essentially, he's the Blau right chain. So essentially his skill is when a Blau Panzer, the grade 1 version, rides this unit, search your deck for up to 1 card named Blau Kluger, which is the grade 2 version, reveal to your opponent and put it in your hand. So essentially, if you get to pull off the grade 1 right, you get the free grade 2 in your hand. So you may ask, why are you running this? Why don't you run a grade 3 searcher or all that other better skills? Well, essentially, he is used to provide riding consistency, because, I mean, you'll see later why you can potentially get grade stuck, but this guy helps fix that, so you run him. Yeah. So next, for grade 3s, you run, of course, your 4 Immortal Asura Kaiser. His skill is, whenever he drive check, he's a grade 3 checker. So whenever he drive check a grade 3, you can, Nova Grappler, you can, at the end of battle, he gets Counterblast 2 and discard 2 cards. At the end of battle, that this guy attacks a Vanguard, you can choose him and another rearguard, stand them, and he gets 10k. So essentially, when you drive like grade 3, he restands with extra 10k and restand another rearguard with the cost of Counterblast 2 and discarding 2 cards. So yeah, a Surf restander. Next, I run 4 Blackougar, your Better Than Ethics Break Right. So essentially, he is a Break Right. So whenever Nova Grappler rides up on him, he gets 10k, the generic 10k, and when your Vanguard attacks, you can Counterblast 1 and restand all your rearguard. Yep, that's all 5 of your rearguards restand. This is a key skill of this deck, which can help you get that final turn push, which I'll explain later. And next, I run 4 Asura Kaisers. So his skill is, whenever you drive a grade 3, you can restand another of your rearguard. So as you see, I'm running 12 grade 3s. And you may be wondering, wow, why would you run 12 grade 3s? Because 2 of the bosses are grade 3 checkers. So you want to increase your chance of getting grade 3s and activating their skill. Of course, you may say that, oh, grade 3s can clog your hand, you don't have enough guarding power. Well, you can always just call a grade 3 for 11k attacker, which is pretty good. So this is why I run Blaujungar, because he can help you get your grade 2 out and prevent grade stuck. And grade 3s, you have plenty of grade 3s, so you won't get grade stuck at 2. So yeah. So that's your grade 3s. Yeah. So for grade 2s, I run 4 Death Army Lady. So her skill complements both your Asura's skill, because when your Vanguard drive check a grade 3, you can restand her straight away. So basically she combos well with Asura Kaiser, as well as Immortal Asura Kaiser, because when you drive check grade 3, well, things restand. Next, I run the first MVP of this deck for Daredevil Samurai. He is very key to this deck. So his skill is, during your battle phase, when a Nova Grappler becomes stand, if you have a Vanguard with Asura, these two, he gets 3k. So the skill says when a Nova Grappler stands, so that's anything that stands, anything Nova Grappler that stands, including the Vanguard, himself, or rear guards, he gets 3k. So you can imagine, if 5 rear guard stands, he gets 15k alone, just like that. Very good. Next, I run just one Blaukluger. He is there solely for the right chain to prevent great stuck. So yeah. Next, for grade 1s, I run your next MVP, Bear Down Samurai. His skill is exactly the same as his skill, so he can also gain 3k for anything that stands during a battle phase, which is also very good. Next, I run for Blau Panzer. He is also here purely for the right chain. Write him over him. You can search the deck for him, then you write him. So you prevent great stuck, which is pretty good if you're in a deck with 12 grade 3s. Now the only weak point about him is that he's a 6k booster. I don't use his I don't use his skill because I don't run any Blau Kluger in this deck. The weakness is that he's a 6k, so some of you may consider actually swapping Death Army Lady for a 10k vanilla, because this way at least you get a 16k column, whereas here you get a 15k column, which is not good against 11ks. But I prefer running her because she synergizes well with your Asuras. So usually I will only run him as a Vanguard booster, because behind a Vanguard you get 17k, or even Crossride is 19k, which is still decent numbers, but it's better than running him as a rearguard booster. I'll probably run him behind him, because when he restands, when things restand, he at least gets some power, and at least the 6k boost isn't exactly weak. So next, for grade 1, I run your staple must-have 4 Perfect Guards. Yep, 4 Perfect Guards. And for my trigger lineup, sorry, let me rearrange this. I run, your standard 8 crits, 4 draws, and 4 heals. Oops, you can't really see that. There we go. So this is my whole deck. So now for battle formations for your field setup. Okay, let's talk about how are you gonna play this deck. So ideally, your starting hand should have. Sorry, my bad. No, same. So this is starting Vanguard, Blau Junger. So for your starting hand, ideally you want to have him and him in your starting hand. Then you are set, because the moment, even if you have no grade 2 in your hand, essentially you just need him in your hand and it's fixed. You can get a grade 2 straight away. So you are not grade stuck. And you want him first because ideally you would definitely want to write him. You definitely want to write him because he is a very good break right skill. And if you notice the samurais, it works really well with him, because on a turn you break right, you can stand 5 units and him alone gains 15k. So he is going to be a 15 plus 7, 22k booster, and he will become a 24k attacker, which is insane. So early game you want these 2 in your hand, okay? Well, opening hand you want these 2 in your hand ideally. But let's say you have a grade 1 and a grade 2, then it's fine. I mean, you're not grade stuck. But let's say you have him and all grade 0s, it's fine because you are not grade stuck, because he helps fix it, which is very good. Sometimes I also like to run him because let's say I have him in my hand, starting hand, I would ideally want to have him because I do not want to run into these two. I would want to use them as rear guards to put pressure, and you definitely want to use him as a Vanguard because you don't run him. He's only 9k. The only reason I run him is as a Vanguard or a 10k Vanguard if you have him in the soul. So early game, ideally you want to ride him because he is very good for early game pressure because he's not limit break for skill and you can actually run early game. So if your opponent just does not rush you and you have, like, let's say 2 damage early game when on turn 3, ride him because he can help, you know, pressure your opponent because his skill is to restand a rear guard. So ideally your early game setup would be something like this, and maybe some random rear guard columns. Okay, so first you attack with him, this column, then you attack with him, and let's say you attack a grade 3, her skill activates, she restands, his skill activates, he restands, and now these 3 units, your 3 samurais, since you have an Asura Vanguard, they gain 3k for each of the restanding. So now you have 2 restanders, so each of them gains 6k now. So now essentially this column will swing for 22k. This column itself swings for 16 plus 12, 28k. So this is actually very good early game pressure. But let's say your opponent rushes you and you're at 3 damage by turn 3. Ride him first. Okay? Because you want the break ride to go off. And during late game, your ideal ride, okay, so this is what you call your final turn push. So during mid game, he essentially does nothing because during mid game you do nothing because he's not in Asura. So these two guys do not gain anything. But you can still use her because she still restands when you grab a grade 3. So for your final turn push, your ideal field setup will be break right Immortal. You have him and him. So this is your ideal final turn push. So your opponent is very, very unlikely to survive this turn, even if he has 3 damage, because I've had games where I play against my opponent and they had 3 damage, they have like 8 or 10 cards, and I still win. I still push them, I still punch them in the face with insane powers. So I did some calculation and I'll show you guys the numbers. So first you swing like this, 16k. Okay, cool, yeah. Next I swing to this, 16k as well, cool. Then I attack with the break right. After break right, I attack with this. So this column itself is 18. So you know, it's 21, 28, 28k. But of course, if you have him in your soul, it's... sorry, is it 28? Yes, if you have him in your soul, it's 23k. So you know, 30k if you have him in the soul, if it's cross right. But it doesn't matter, against 11k Vanguards or 13k Vanguards is about the same. So this is going to be 28k. Break right skill, counter blast 1, restand all 5 of your units. So now you have 5 units that restands and you have Asura Vanguard. They all gain 15k. So this column is now a 52k column. This is also a 52k column. So let's say after you attack, you drive check. Ooh, guess what? I drive check at grade 3. Activate his skill, counter blast 2, discard 2 cards. He himself restands as well with an additional 10k. And now you have 6 units that restand, so they also gain additional 3k because he restands. So now, oh sorry, before this it was 46k ish. But now if he restands, they are all 42k columns. Swing for 42. Swing for how much? 56k. Break right skill, counter blast, restand everything. They all gain an additional 15k each again. And finally, you swing for 82k columns. Yes, 82. Insane. 82. Can you imagine that? Yes. So if your opponent survives your first... So yeah. So essentially you get 8 attacks. Potentially 8 attacks of insane power. If your opponent survives this, I have no idea how he survived it. Because let's do some mathematics. How much cards does he need to get rid of? So let's assume something. Let's assume that your opponent has 3 damage. And let's assume that you have 4 damage. and that he has the perfect combination of cards to guard everything. And let's assume he guards the smart way. He guards the first few attacks and takes the last two 82k columns, which will bring him to 5 damage. And let's assume you get no triggers on bad luck day, okay? So first, let's go with 16k as 5k guard, 1 card. 16k, another 5k, and let's assume he's a cross-right as well. 16k, another 5k guard as well. Next, we go with 28k. Now this is 20k guard for 1 to pass, and let's assume you didn't pass. Okay, so that's another additional 2 cards, 2 20ks. So there's already 4 cards gone. Restand. You draw a grade 3, he restands as well. Now this is going to be 52k, which is a 40k guard or a perfect guard. 52 again, another 40k guard or a perfect guard. And finally 56k with a 45k guard for 1 to pass or a perfect guard. So if he, let's say he's 3 perfect guards and he has the right grade 0 guards to guard the first 3 attacks as well. That's 10 cards out of your hand. That's 5k, 5k, 20k, 2 10ks, perfect guard, another 2k, 2 guards, perfect guard, another 2 cards, perfect guard, another 2 cards. So that's 10 cards itself. And let's say you restand, 82k columns, he takes it, he's at 5 damage. So to survive this turn at 3, when he's at 3 damage, then you push him to 5 damage, and he has a perfect card combination in his hand, he takes at least 10 cards to guard the first 6 attacks. But let's assuming he has 3 perfect guards. But if he doesn't have any perfect guards, that's 17 cards to guard. I have no idea. I haven't seen anyone play with 17 cards in his hand before. So yeah, even if your opponent's at 3 damage and you're at 4 and you pull this turn off, he is dead. I can guarantee that he is dead. And the thing is, you may wonder, oh, it won't happen all the time. Well, so far, most of the games I played, I've able to pull this combo off where I break right, and then I actually drive at a grade 3. Of course, my field isn't as perfect as this. I have some weird boosters or weird attackers, but at least I always have at least 1 column that is the 2 samurais. So this column itself will be 16, 40, 52, and 82 if I don't get triggers. So yeah, this deck is very good for final turn pushes. Of course, if you don't have Immortal in your hand, you can also break right Asura. You have similar effects, although you won't get your 8 attacks. You have your 16. You have your 20. Sorry, if it's samurai, 28 restand, and he won't restand because he's not immortal. So you get your 46k and 46k, which is still very powerful columns. 46k, you at least another 40k. Yep, another 40. No, sorry. Against an 11k Vanguard, you need a 40k guard. Against a cross right, you need 35k guard. So yeah, this is your ideal field setup. So early game, right him. Mid game, right him. Late game, break right him, if possible. I mean, for this to happen, it takes a while because it takes time to write, to do this ideal writing. But of course, most games you just write into him and break right into him for the final turn push. So this, as you can see, this deck relies heavily upon these 2 units. So it can have some consistency issues against retiring control decks such as Kagero, Narukami, and Link Joker, as I said before. So yeah, ideally when you play this deck, you want to keep your opponent at 3 damage and wait till you have your break right turn to commit everything to the field and just push for a final turn game. So early game you actually usually have something like this or like this, so that you don't commit too much onto your field. Then when you break right, you start committing and push for endgame. So yeah guys, Immortal Asura Kaiser, a pretty immortal deck. No kidding, that's a bad joke. So this has been LJS. I hope you enjoyed this deck profile. Like, subscribe, comment down below, and I'll see you guys next time.